Yo, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I was ain't open that mouth. Sure that she talking and open that mouth. If it say something, we rubbing it out. And then it's something it out. And then it's got and it's part of this nothing.
And now from an undisclosed location, you are now tuned in to the Xander Effect with host Xander.
On the Xander Effect. What's up, everybody, and welcome to the show. Now, just so you guys know, I actually went ahead and, just to disclose, I played that song for the purposes of that the election is over for the most part, so it's a celebration because we could stop hearing all the crazy campaign ads, so that's one of the reasons why I played that song. Just a disclaimer for all of you thinking that, otherwise. But just wanted to thank, welcome everybody. It's a wonderful Monday. I have two great co-hosts with me right here. I got Mr. Jeremy Miller. Jeremy, how's your Monday going?
Xander, it's a beautiful day to be alive.
Yes, I bet. It's a cold one, too. And speaking of cold, we also have our wonderful, beautiful co-host, Miss Lonnie Rivera out in Pittsburgh. And I know it's freezing over there. How you doing over there, Lonnie?
Hey, what's up? No, it's 75 degrees and sunny.
What?
Yes.
How's that possible?
Tomorrow's going to be a record 77 tomorrow. So actually, it is probably warmer here than it is in LA right now.
That's freaking insane. You guys are supposed to be like in snow and miserable, not us.
No, not this time of year.
Well,
it's 50 degrees over here right now.
Yeah.
Wow. So it really is warmer here right now.
Like I saw one of your yoga videos on Instagram, and it's all sunny and everything, and you're all like out there, and I was like, really? I'm like, what's going on over there? I don't know. It's a weird climate change going on from over here to over there. I don't know. It's insane.
Big time.
But yeah, I mean, a lot of cool stuff to talk about today. We have some pretty crazy news coming in from the outlets. Apparently, they said that a COVID-19 vaccine has been testing a 90% effective so far, and this is out of various news outlets so far. So hopefully, there is hope for the public as far as vaccine is concerned to control this virus. Right. So that's some good news. They said apparently, according to the interviews, they're saying that by the end of this month, they should know for sure if it's ready to be, dispersed to the masses. So I guess we'll wait and find out. But President-elect Joe Biden said that regardless if there's a vaccine or not, that we still need to continue to wear masks. And that's pretty much what he said on that one. We'll see in the next month or so what happens with that. I mean, other than that, I mean, how was your guys' weekend? I mean, I know this is a crazy week for everybody, but how was the weekend for you guys?
My weekend was great. I'm visiting my mom here, and I just love bonding with my mom. One of the things that we've always bonded over is sports and politics. So that's our thing. And then, I'm trying to get her into the yoga thing. So I actually bought her a mat. So those are the things we like to do. And it's just been really good quality time to spend with her right now.
Nice. And Jeremy, I'm sure you had a great weekend.
Had a very good weekend. It's a nice relief. It feels like a weight has been lifted, knowing that the election is essentially over. And as you said, we can quit hearing about all of this crap, all this election, all the ads, all the this, all the that, all the rhetoric. I mean, we're still dealing with some, but the levels have dropped considerably. And it's just so nice not to have to deal with. I'm not a fan of election time, generally speaking. And I mean, just because of the way people get, because of the constant bombardments on media, so on and so forth. So it's just a relief for it to be done. It feels like we've made it through a storm and starting to come out the other end. And it was an okay weekend up until yesterday. On the COVID front, it has touched my home pretty close here.
Really?
One of my very, very dearest friends, my writing partner on the book I wrote, When I Wished Upon a Star, Dr. Brandon Phillips, has contracted COVID.
Oh, man. I'm sorry to hear that. I know Brandon too, man. I'm hearing this for the first time today. Jesus.
We just found out last night. Yesterday evening. Don't really have any answers yet. He's just talking to his specialist now because, he has a heart condition. He was born with a heart condition, has had 2 heart valve replacements already. So this is a dangerous thing for somebody like him, and it's quite worrisome, And
and does he know how he might have contracted it?
Well, he's a doctor. He's in a doctor's office with children and their parents every day. And unfortunately, Louisiana is a state that loosened their regulations drastically. And instead of keeping the regulations at 1 parent and 1 child only in a doctor's office, they went ahead and just let everybody come.
Wow.
So now they've got, I know here in California, you are not allowed to bring somebody to the office with you at the moment. If you go to a doctor's appointment, unless you are unable to bring yourself physically, you are not allowed to bring another person into the doctor's office with you right now. Well,
Right.
Unfortunately, that's not the case in Louisiana. He's got every sibling coming, mom, dad, the aunt, you got 7 people with each kid coming in. You're going to be highly exposed. And unfortunately, he has been. So,
wow, I'm so sorry to hear that, Jeremy. I mean, my thoughts go out to Brandon. I'm hoping that he gets better. And I'm, with him and everybody else that's this virus has affected. I mean, I'm hoping that things start turning up with this new vaccine and they start, it starts getting under control. But the good thing is that I've heard that there's been medications they've tested on people and everything, and it seems like COVID is actually starting to they're starting to be able to treat it a lot better. So,
well, as I said, they don't, he's talking to his specialists and everybody right now, and they're going to come up with a plan of attack, I'm quite sure. But being that he is extremely high risk with his heart condition that he's had, he will most likely be qualified for remdesivir treatment, which is probably the highest rated treatment right now for success.
Good.
So I have another friend who both him and his wife contracted it about 3 weeks ago, and his wife got it pretty bad and ended up in the hospital for almost 2 weeks.
wow.
But she wasn't bad enough to qualify for remdesivir treatment. They could only do plasma treatment for her because she didn't get critical enough. So you've got to be in pretty serious condition to be able to get it, or you have to be at seriously high risk, which he is. So, we'll see what happens. And he's got some of the best specialists from the Mayo Clinic, and some of the best heart specialists in the country that he works with. So I have confidence that, he's a doctor. He's smart enough to follow the instructions he's given. He's, so.
That's good. I mean, like I said, I'm hoping that he gets better, dude. Keep me posted on that.
I will.
On the side, just keep me posted on it. Let me know how he's doing and everything, because I'd really like to know. But again, my thoughts go out to him. Well wishes. Hopefully, he'll get better from this and he'll overcome this. And like I said, hopefully, we'll all get through this together. We're in this together, so hopefully, we'll all get through this together.
Got that right.
But we got a lot of stuff to talk about today on the Xander Effect, including the unfortunate passing of Jeopardy host Alex Trebek. Unfortunately, he passed away yesterday, actually, at the age of 80. We'll talk a little bit about that. In sports, again, going back to talking about COVID, because that's that's the unfortunate thing about this virus. You can't really escape not talking about it. Golfer Sergio Garcia tests positive for COVID, and he withdraws from the Masters. So we'll talk a little bit about that. In video game news, looks like, obviously tomorrow is the release of the Xbox Series X. So kind of excited about that one. There's also being released tomorrow is Assassin's Creed Valhalla. Definitely looking forward for that one. And, Rockstar also announced a couple of really interesting things involving their games GTA 5 and Red Dead Redemption 2 and LA Lore. So we'll talk all about that. But first, here is Tupac's I Ain't Mad At Ya, right here on the Xander Effect.
I ain't mad at you. Let me see your hands. No, I ain't mad at you. Now we was once two brothers of the same kind, quick to approach a ghetto cutie with the same line. You was just a little smaller, but you still roll. Got stretched to YA, hit the hood swole. Remember when you had a Jerry curl, never quite learned. Drinking 90 proof on the roof, tripping off Sherm. Collect calls to the tilt, singing how you changed. When you a Muslim now, no more dope games. I just got the phone call, heard you got bail. Wanna go to the mosque, no time for females. I'm losing touch with my homie, he's a changed man. He hit the pen and now no sinning is the game plan. When I say I'm living large, all you see is the struggle. When I say I'm still thugging, all you see is the trouble. Congratulations on the wedding. I hope your wife know she got a player for life, and everybody miss you. I know we grew apart, you probably don't remember. I used to think for your sister, but never did get with her. And I can see us after school, we bombed on the first player haters with the wrong set on. Now the whole thing's changed, cause we don't even kick it. Got a big money scheme, and you ain't even with it. Knew in my heart you was the same young brother that when it's time for woe, go toe to toe and watch your brother's back. I can't even lie, cause I ain't laughing at you. You trying hard to maintain, but go ahead, cause I ain't mad at you. 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 We used to be like distant cousins, fighting, playing dozens, whole neighborhood buzzing. No, that we wasn't. Used to catch us on the roof or behind the stairs. I'm getting blitzed and I reminisce on all the times we shared. Besides bumping and grinding, wasn't nothing on our mind. In time, we learned to live a life of crime. Rewind me back to a place was much too young to know. I caught a felony loving the way the guns blow. And even though we separated, you told me you wait. Don't get nobody my loving while I be locked up state. I kissed my mama goodbye and wiped the tears from her lonely eyes. Said I return, but I gotta fight to fix the ride. Don't shed a tear, mama, I ain't happy here. I blew trial, no more smiles for a couple of years. They got me going max. I'm knocking busters on their backs in my cell, thinking hell, I know one day I'll be back. But as soon as I touch down, I told my girl I'll be there, so prepared to get loved down. My homies wanna kick it, but I'm just laughing at you. Y'all play too many games, and I ain't mad at you. I ain't mad at you. Forgive us for living while all my homies stuck in prison, barely breathing, believing that the world is a prison. It's like a ghetto we can never leave. A broken rose giving bloom through the cracks of the concrete. So many other things for us to see, things to be. Our history so full of tragedy and misery. To all my homies never made it home, the dead peers I shed tattooed tears for when I'm alone. Picture us inside a ghetto heaven, a place to rest, finding peace through this land of stress. In my chest I feel pain coming sudden storms. Life full of rain in this game, watch for lead thorns. Our unborn never got to grow, never got to see what's next. In this world full of countless threats, I beg God to make a way for our ghetto kids to breathe. Show a sign, make us all believe, cause I ain't mad at you. For all the homeboys that passed away, I ain't mad. All the homeboys locked in jail, all the people that lost a loved one this year, we ain't mad. I ain't mad at you. Hell nah, I ain't mad at you. Nah.
Yo, what up? This is AB.
Hey guys, this is Sean Kanan.
What's going on? It's Amanda Holly.
Hey, Jeremy Miller from Growing Pains here.
This is Maxim Model Riley Sawyer.
And you're listening to
the Xander Effect.
Yo, this is Jason.
Effect. In entertainment news, the world of television, was rocked this weekend over the passing of announcer, or actually a host of Jeopardy, Alex Trebek. He passed away at the age of 80. Various news sources are suggesting that he passed away due to pancreatic cancer. As we know, and I actually announced this on my social media, that Alex Trebek had announced back in March of 2019 that he was diagnosed with stage 4 pancreatic cancer. He underwent a lot of treatment. He basically went ahead and his numbers are starting to get better. He announced earlier this year that his numbers are starting to get better. He was, the cancer was 50%, eradicated from his system, but apparently he had kind of a relapse in May, so he had to go under it again. And he basically, in an interview in October, he basically said that he's lived a good life and he's living the last days of his life. So I'm assuming he kind of saw it coming, coming pretty soon, pretty quickly, and it was a sad day for everybody. And Jeopardy went ahead and posted on Twitter, quote, "Jeopardy is saddened to share that Alex Trebek passed away peacefully at home early this morning, surrounded by family and friends. Thank you, Alex." Trebek started his career in early 70s. Canadian born, came down here. He actually got his degree in philosophy. He got a degree in philosophy. So, man, definitely, knew a lot of the things that he was talking about when he was hosting Jeopardy. It's a sad day. He's a legend in television. He will be missed. And my condolences go to his family and any of the fans that love Jeopardy. I mean, it's definitely a sad day in the entertainment industry, losing such an icon such as Alex Trebek. I mean, Jeremy, did you ever meet him?
I did get the chance to meet him a few times, a handful of times.
Oh wow!
I was never on the show, although they did have a few celebrity episodes and things like that for charity. But I did get a chance to meet him. He was a very warm guy, a very friendly guy. Seemed very genuine and seemed very much like you saw him on TV. I mean, he just seemed like that kind of guy. Very down to earth, very thoughtful, very smart. And, it's a big loss for the entertainment industry. He's somebody who has held a lot lot of respect over the years.
Wow. And what about you, Lonnie? Because I know that you were for TMZ. Yeah. I mean, did you ever get bump into him at all?
So a couple of things. It's interesting that we're doing the story on it because I remember on TMZ when it first came out, because we were talking in the newsroom when I was there, we were talking about it when he was first diagnosed. Mm-hmm. And I remember, and then I just remember everyone talking about it and everyone being so in awe with how just such grace that he faced it. The disease. I mean, it was like he didn't even spend a minute being negative. It was just like, I'm going to fight this. And which probably, I'm just a big believer in positive thinking, and I'm sure he probably was too. So I'm sure that's probably why he was able to stay around for as long as he did because pancreatic cancer, I think, is one of those that's really tough. But in terms of just Jeopardy and just my love for Jeopardy, because I was like, I'm a big trivia crazy nerd, and I am.
You're not a video game nerd, but you're a trivia nerd. I'm
a trivia nerd. I am, and I'm like the person in my family, and I'm competitive when we play, trivial games or anything like that. My cousin's wife loves me on her team because we're the same when it comes to we're very competitive, and so I'm sure she loves him too. I just loved him. He's like, it's one of those shows that I can't say that I watched every day, but if I was turning the channel, Jeopardy's on. I'm going to keep it on Jeopardy, and you feel so smart. He made us all feel smarter, and that's what I loved about him. Like if I got a couple of answers right, you felt so smart. So it was such a good show. He definitely will be missed. And God bless his family. One thing that I did hear that I just love anecdotal stuff about the family. One of his producers was on the Today Show this morning and mentioned that he was very industrious. He could build things. And he actually built a swing in his yard, and he loved to swing. And one of the last things that he had hoped to be able to do was to be on the swing watching the sunrise or sunset with his wife. And the producer said he was able to do that yesterday.
That's awesome. So yesterday, right before he passed away, he was able to do one final, and that's really cool. That's amazing to hear things like that. And again, he was definitely a staple in television. I mean, many people like you can't when you watch shows or trivia games or anything like that. Obviously, you always think of the host. When you think of Wheel of Fortune, you think of Pat Sajak. When you think of The Price is Right, you think of Bob Barker. Yeah, Drew Carey's there, but automatically you think Bob Barker. You know, I mean, it's one of those things where Jeopardy immediately is synonymous with Alex Trebek, and that's something that's going to remain for many, many years, for many generations to come. You know, everybody will go ahead and remember Alex Trebek. Sony, which also is one of our sponsors here on the Xander Effect. They own Jeopardy, and they purchased it back in a few years ago from Columbia Pictures Television, which acquired it from Merv Griffin Enterprises in 1986. And Sony went ahead and confirmed that Jeopardy episodes hosted by Trebek will air through December 25th. So he did do a lot of episodes before he passed, and they're going to be airing through December 25th. So make sure you check your local listings for that, to at least check out the man himself, before changes are made to Jeopardy. So check that out. In other entertainment news, Kanye West is being blamed by Larsa Pippen about basically saying that he brainwashed the Kardashians against her. She's claiming that apparently there was an issue between herself and Travis Scott, and there was an incident between her and Travis Scott that put her at odds with Kanye and set him off. And she believes that the rift, this is according to TMZ, saying, quotes, the rift began earlier this year because Kanye didn't trust anyone with Kim, which led to Larsa and Kim unfollowing each other on social media. So she's definitely blaming, she's placing the blame on Kanye a bit for putting all of them against her. But, here's a guy, I wouldn't put it past him. Here's a guy that ran for presidency and got 60,000 votes. Haha. Personally, I was actually thinking about this over the weekend. I was like, I would love to talk to those 60,000 people and ask them, what were you thinking? When it came to that.
It would be an apt question.
It really would. I'd like to know who would vote for Kanye. And the even funnier thing about it is that when he conceded, the race and said, basically he was out, he went ahead and posted on social media on Twitter saying Kanye 2024. So it's not over yet. He's going to go ahead and run again. So far he's claiming that he's going to run again in 2024. And I don't know. I think that maybe this election served as an experience to him to see what he can do to gain more support, more votes. But yeah, it's not over, but with Kanye and the presidency, he's still aiming to go ahead and get there. But as it stands, it seems like Larsa, Pippen is not having it. She's not too happy with him, and she was talking about that whole situation on the Hollywood Raw podcast. So I don't know. Is it possible that maybe she might be wrong about this? What are your thoughts, Lonnie?
From just what I know from looking from the outside in, and I always kind of listen to what people say because that's all we know is what they tell you about. You never really know what their marriage is like. But I remember when Kim was in Paris and when the whole thing happened with her getting her jewelry stolen. And one of the things that she mentioned, and this is actually what she mentioned recently in her interview with David Letterman, which I watched, because I love David Letterman's interviews that he does with, public figures. And she had mentioned that when she was there, and I guess Kanye, while she was there, saw what she was wearing to an event or something and flew to Paris to dress her for the remainder of her time there to make sure that he could pick her outfits. Now, I'm not saying that he doesn't have a good sense of fashion, but this is just me personally speaking. I do not want my man feeling like he's got to dress me for something. You know what I mean? That to me feels controlling. I'm sorry. So hearing that made me think, I think there are parts of that marriage that he kind of really controls things. And so if this is true, what Larsa is saying, then it doesn't surprise me. that he would be very vocal about who her friends are. And if he felt like any one of her friends was influencing her in some way that could be negative toward him, I could see him being, being that way, being petty. I'm just keeping it real. So I'm not a big Kanye fan.
You didn't vote for him?
Obviously.
I'm surprised you weren't one of the 60,000 that voted for him, Lonnie.
No.
I was just wondering. I was like, I didn't catch that from you. So no, but I mean, yeah, I see what you're saying, and I'm curious. I'm curious to hear an actor and celebrity's perspective on all this. Jeremy, what are your thoughts on this whole situation?
As a co-host, I know I'm not supposed to say this, but
here it comes.
God, I don't care.
Jeremy, are you going to swear and say something like F something? No,
not a bit. I just don't care. My soul dies a little every time we discuss this absolutely useless person. I'm sorry. I have no, at one point, yes, he served a purpose. He had an art, and whether you were a fan of his music or not, he was doing something. Now he's becoming a joke, and I'm sorry, I'm not the biggest fan of the Kardashians and that whole
Stop
world.
It. Get out of here.
It's the it is. It's the what is it? The death beacon of our society,
Wow.
I'm sorry. It's
a little savage.
Being obsessed with these people's lives the way our society has been, it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
It is. I'm sorry. And I mean, they say, it's an old saying, but it's smart people discuss ideas, simple people something, and then it's kind of harsh, but like stupid people discuss other people.
Yeah,
it's an old saying. It's a very old saying, but
I like that.
When you're that obsessed with these people's lives, it's just, I'm sorry, it really bothers me. And like I said, every time we have to talk about it, my soul dies a little bit. That being said, dude,
that being said,
well, you asked me a question. Now I'm going to answer it. That being said, now that my soul has died a little more again, yeah, I believe it. I mean, he's. I've said it before, and yes, I am being harsh, but the guy's a whack job. Yep. It doesn't shock me that he thinks he's going to run again in 24. He probably will, because as far as he's concerned, God has anointed him to save the world.
Oh, for the love of God.
Oh, Lord. Okay, fine. But the fact is, all the stuff you're telling me about the clothes and the friends and the this and the that, that's shit that I got out of doing in high school. That shit that I did in my high school relationships when I was an insecure teenager who, I mean, it's childish. It's insecure. It's absolutely ridiculous if he's behaving like that. Lonnie, you said it best. It's a controlling attitude.
Yep.
That is just another way of control.
Yeah.
That's, it's absolutely ridiculous. And for him to be acting like that at this age and this stage of their marriage, again, we don't know what happens behind closed doors, but I think it's pretty childish and very immature. But again, it's two words that I would generally associate with him anyway. So,
well. Yeah. I mean, it's not surprising to anybody, I don't think. And I hate to break it to you, Jeremy, but your soul will die, a little bit again, I'm sure very soon, because we all know that there's always things going on around Kanye and the Kardashians all the time. And sometimes it's just impossible for me not to go ahead and talk about it because it's just there. It's one of those things where it's just there. It's like a horrible car crash. You can't help but to slow down and look at it, see what happened.
You know what the interesting thing is, though? Here's the thing, and I'm sure Jeremy could chime in on this. We're not talking about his music. We're not talking about that,
True.
And the thing is, like, the thing is, I'll give it to the brother. He's talented. If he would just focus on the music, you know what I mean? That's all I'm saying.
No, and you got a point. You're definitely hit the nail right on the head right there, because I mean, he's incredibly talented. I love a lot of his music, and the fact of the matter that he has gotten focus away from his music and into his personal life should speak volumes about what changes he probably needs to make in his own life. Try to get away from that type of spotlight, that type of negative spotlight, and try to get into something a little bit better than that. So I don't know. I mean, again, this whole issue with Larsa doesn't seem like it's going to go away, and chances are after this podcast, it might get worse. So who knows? We'll go ahead and, against Jeremy's wishes, we'll keep an eye on that too. In other entertainment news, this is more of a follow-up to last week's conversation involving Johnny Depp and Amber Heard's, domestic violence issues that are going on right now. Apparently it's gotten worse for Johnny Depp. He went ahead and shared an open letter on his social media because he was forced to resign from his role in Fantastic Beasts. His role was the Dark Wizard Gellert Grindelwald, and he had to go ahead and resign from that role due to the current issues that he's going through right now as far as domestic violence issues go with Amber Heard. And he said, quote, "In light of recent events, I would like to make the following short statement. Firstly, I'd like to thank everybody who has gifted me with their support and loyalty. I have been humbled and moved by your many messages of love and concern, particularly over the last few days. Secondly, I wish to let you know that I have been asked to resign by Warner Brothers from my role as Grindelwald in Fantastic Beasts, and I have respected and agreed to that request. Finally, I wish to say this. The surreal judgment of the court in the UK will not change my fight to tell the truth, and I confirm that I plan to appeal. My resolve remains strong, and I intend to prove that the allegations against me are false. My life and career will not be defined by this moment in time. Thank you for reading. Sincerely, Johnny Depp." So, he's talking about basically what the courts were saying, that what the son had accused him of being a wife beater was not considered libel, considering the allegations and the current cases that he has against him by Amber Heard in courts in the UK, and he plans to appeal what the court's decision on that, because that's obviously affecting his career right now. Warner Brothers has zero tolerance. I mean, Jeremy, you work for Warner Brothers, on Growing Pains. I mean, you were with them for many years, on the show. I mean, does this surprise you that Warner Brothers would go ahead and ask Johnny Depp to resign, even though there hasn't been, the case isn't closed in this whole ordeal?
It doesn't shock me, not in particular to Warner Brothers, although yes, as any major company like that, they were very careful and protective of their image. But in today's society, with the cancel culture we do have, and it's not I hate that word because it doesn't really exist, and we could spend another hour talking about that. But in this day and age where everybody's so conscious of that and so conscious of being labeled, look at Dustin Hoffman. Dustin Hoffman still hasn't worked, had every project he was working on taken away because in the 1970s, he smacked an 18-year-old girl on the butt on a set.
Really?
Wow. Yeah.
That's what there was no sexual assault charge brought against him. There was nobody said he tried to, rape him, nothing like that. In the 1970s on set, he swatted an actress who was 18 years old on the butt. And that's why the man hasn't worked. He lost his endorsement gigs and the master class that he was teaching and all these things. So people are very, very aware of this stuff right now, and people are losing stuff over it left and right. Yeah. What shocks me, so it doesn't shock me that it happened. What shocks me is that it happened because of this case. This case is nothing more than a libel case. This doesn't prove anything.
Exactly.
The son is spent
on the street. We call it he said, she said shit. Oh, excuse me.
That's exactly it. And as I said last time on our last podcast, the son has spent the last 30 years winning these cases in court. They have had a reputation for rather recklessly making these types of accusations, but they know how to do it in a way that leaves them legally protected. I don't remember hearing about them lose a case like this in forever. And they've been brought to court. You can't even count how many times over the last 30 years, and made by major entertainers, politicians, and I can't remember hearing about them losing ever. So this was not a case that decided, nobody said, the evidence looks like he did beat her, or the evidence looks like, that's not what this was about. So that shocks me a little bit. All they did was say that the son legally could say this because of what's going on. I mean,
would you say it's a similar situation to what happened with Danny Masterson? When he was asked to resign from his role as Rooster in the Ranch?
I think on that level it's similar. The only thing with Danny, unfortunately, I'm not saying it this way because I don't know what happened, and I didn't know Danny. I can't take any opinion on his personality or otherwise, but more people have come out of the woodwork with Danny, and when you are a big network like that and they vet and investigate these type of things, we don't know what they may have found or if they could have seen that more people were going to be coming out of the woodwork with this. Now, the opposite situation with Johnny Depp is that you have one ex of his who has sided with Amber Heard. Now, this is an ex who has filed suit against him multiple times and had major issues with him. Never, a violent suit or anything like that. So it makes me question her motives a little bit.
Right.
But on the other hand, Johnny Depp has had multiple former ingenues, attachments, lovers, whatever you want to call them, come out, including a couple of very big names that he spent, a long period of time with, and say, this is not the man. This behavior I'm hearing is not him.
Right. And I'm going to add to that. Go on, Jeremy. Go on.
When you have so many people who know him and were in that type of situation. Now, people can change. I mean, it happens. I'm not saying that. But I tend to lean towards people who've known him more. As I said, only one ex has come out supporting Amber Heard, and it's somebody who already seemed to have an axe to grind. So I'm shocked that the studio has separated him from that project, especially because I don't believe he can be recast effectively. I believe they have ruined that franchise now.
And he's such a good actor.
Well, he's not only a brilliant actor, but truthfully, and again, I know I'm a little harsh sometimes, but he was really the only great thing about those films. I'm sorry, I did not like the Fantastic Beasts films overall. They had some good performances. I'm not saying all the actors were bad or anything, but the only performance that drew you to that film was Johnny's. That's the truth. His performance, if anything was going to carry that film, it was him. And I really believe that they've shot themselves in the foot with that. So the fact that they did it without any clear proof is a little stunning to me.
Yeah, and that's tough right there. And Lonnie, I mean, you said that you had something to add to that whole thing. I mean, I'm curious to know, your perspective on this whole situation. Do you think it's fair what's going on with Johnny to be asked to be resigned from this movie?
I just think it's a lot. When you don't have any really clear proof of something, and I'm just going by, I don't know the guy personally, but to kind of just piggyback a bit on what Jeremy was saying, just from what I could see that's already come out in the news, and just from other people talking, Amber Heard was abusive too. They both were, it was almost like two can tango. And I'm not, from what I could see. And so when you're in a volatile relationship like that, and one person is physically and verbally abusive to the other, and the other person is allegedly giving it back, then you don't know really what the truth is. And to take somebody's livelihood away because of just words that another person has said, I just think it's a lot. You know, Sharon Osbourne said something that I thought was really interesting on the talk, that she basically feels like both of them gave it and took it, you know, allegedly. I mean, and the only thing that she said, the reason why she believes this is because she herself was in the same situation with Ozzy Osbourne. There was a point of time in their relationship when he was abusive, and he would give it and she would give it right back. You know? Wow. And she said, and so that's why she says you have no idea when there's alcohol allegedly involved and there's battery, that you never know who's doing what. And she just feels like they both were as bad as each other.
Well, I mean, one person that can possibly go ahead and, answer the question as to why these relationships are so messed up is our guest today, who's joining us today on the Xander Effect. She is a family therapist and counselor, actually. Her name is Raquel Buchanan-Gasio. And Raquel, she's, she basically deals with a lot of these, with many of these situations. Raquel, how are you doing today?
Hey everyone. Thank you for having me. I am doing well. Thank you.
Thank you for being on the Xander Effect. And you've obviously heard, many of these different types of issues that are going on with marriages, domestic violence, relationships and things like that. And you've had to counsel many marriages, with a lot of these issues.
So let me specify that. I am a marriage and family therapist, a licensed marriage and family therapist, and I do work on improving marriages and relationships, although my specialty and my emphasis is working with individuals. Mm-hmm. So it is true that I am working to build healthy relationships, but I work with individuals. And historically, I have worked with individuals who are court ordered to attend therapy because they use violence or abuse towards their intimate partner. So I have seen a lot of what you guys are talking about, and I am so glad that I could be here to kind of join the conversation and give an outside perspective that's based in a little bit of fact, a little bit of truth.
Awesome. And before we get into that, I mean, Raquel, you got into this field, because, well, first of all, I mean, I got to ask, most people that get into the field of psychology or anything like that are usually because they're kind of messed up themselves. At least that's what I heard. Is that the same case for you, or is this a field that just interested you, or is it a little bit of both?
Okay, first of all, I have to confront Jeremy on something he said earlier.
Oh boy.
Yes, oh, wow. I am offended.
Wow.
Yes. So I am offended that you say that stupid people discuss other people.
Oh, no. Wait. Let me. I said the old saying was, that's not something that I honestly believe, but I do believe that being fascinated with other people's lives more than what's going on in the world and otherwise is not a good thing in any way, shape, or form. But no, I do not believe stupid people talk. That's just a very old saying I was quoting. Let me make that clear.
Oh,
but
boy.
Please continue.
You're almost in trouble there. You were almost like, that was bad. But Raquel, I mean, again, going back to what you were saying.
So handled very smoothly, Jeremy.
I can deflect.
Great reframe there.
He backpedals, but then he finds a way out of that.
All I can say, you guys, is oops.
So anyways, yeah, Raquel.
Okay, so what we're talking about is we're talking about things that happen in the media, but what we're also talking about is something that happens in everyday life. So where we're at right now, even in terms of COVID, is a very interesting time for us all, because we have this this worldwide pandemic and everyone is suffering with that. And then we have everyday life going on too. And what you're seeing in the media is you are seeing the same exact things that are happening in the everyday home. We actually found that during quarantine, especially in the beginning months of quarantine, we had more child abuse reports being made for domestic violence. We had more police calls for the use of domestic violence. We had an overflow of domestic violence charges. And because of COVID, the court systems were shut down. And so everybody was just in holding. This means that more people are incarcerated because they're waiting for trial. They're waiting for bail. It was just not a good time in regards to domestic violence in relationships, especially during this time. Now, when we're talking about Johnny Depp and Amber Heard, I had also heard you guys talking about Kanye and Kim's relationship. And, Lonnie mentioned something that I think a lot of people miss is the range of abuse and violence in relationships. So we often think that violence in relationships is physical. It's this Amanda Heard, Johnny Depp situation, but domestic violence in relationships is a lot more subtle. And it starts with things like over-controlling behaviors. It starts with telling my partner what to do. And then a natural ramification of that and continued use of abuse in relationships will lead to character defamation. I'm impacting this person's job and their source of income. Domestic violence, what we're seeing with Johnny Depp and Amber Heard, is exactly the image of domestic violence in relationships.
Wow. So, I mean, but I mean, again, going back to, one of my initial questions is like, is that one of the reasons why you got into this field was because you were probably seeing a lot of this happening around you? Or, I mean, what exactly is the reason why you got into this field of study exactly?
That's a really difficult question to ask. And I think the answer differs based on who's asking. But I think a large part of why I entered this field was not only my life experience, because if you want to talk about crazy, well, I'm sure you know a little bit about that, Xander, and my crazy personally, right?
I'm like, I don't know anything about crazy. Just a little bit. No, but I mean, what exactly are you talking about?
So, just my wild side, definitely walking down the Vegas Strip, things like that. Back in the day.
That's not crazy. That's just to go ahead and clarify so that way people don't think anything different, because when you said walking down the strip of Vegas, that doesn't sound good. Just to clarify really quick, that's how I met Raquel.
This is starting to sound really bad.
I was going to say, were you working the streets?
That's why I have to clarify that. I was actually because I used to be a Hollywood club promoter, and I was promoting clubs in Vegas one weekend, and she was actually there, having fun with friends of hers and stuff like that. And my friend and I, Nick, we were walking, around trying to get people to come to the club that night, and we see three ladies walking, and we told them, hey, we have a club, we have a club thing tonight, you're more than welcome to come through. And that's pretty much how, like, it's funny because the two ladies ended up giving me Raquel's number. Like, they didn't even give me their numbers. They gave me Raquel's number, or Raquel shared it. I don't remember. It was one of those two, and that's how I met her. And this is before she got, she was actually, Raquel, weren't you studying at the time? Like, you were still studying this field?
I was very early on in my career, and that's why I bring that up, is that, you've known me for a very long time, so you definitely have heard the things that I've been through and why I'm motivated to do what I do. So I think it's, it is my life experience, but also some of us are just born with a skill. We're born with a talent, and it just so happens that talking about other people is mine.
Right.
And that's something that that's something that again, it's unfortunately common. That this type of conversation happens, so nonchalantly and so common. It's very tragic. But I mean, Raquel, like you've been working with a lot of people, and I believe you've also been working with some actors here and there.
I do. I practice virtual therapy, which is, I've been doing that before COVID. So now it's only brought more clients my way. So I have worked with a lot of clients in entertainment. I specialized in building self-confidence and self-esteem in people who have experienced childhood abuse. And that's very common in a lot of the acting community, because acting is a way to resolve conflict. Acting can be a way to express yourself. And I even facilitate some sort of like drama therapy approaches. So that really sends a lot of people who are creatives in my direction.
And I mean, Jeremy, would you concur with that? Because seeing as you were, in that field, would you agree with what Raquel is saying?
I would absolutely agree. Especially, Raquel, when you were talking about everything going on with COVID, we are seeing massive amounts of relapse and, as you said, abuse and, everything else. The stress levels have pushed mental health to the brink right now. And as we have seen, we are horribly underprepared for this type of thing in the mental health field, industry, whatever. As a country, as a state, as everything, we are just horribly underprepared for this. We're losing people left and right in the recovery industry right now. I believe the figure's it's over 63%. The rate of relapse is over 60 to 80% higher right now. I don't have the exact number. It's a really, really bad time right now for all of this. So.
Yep.
And that's something that's affecting everybody. And Lonnie, have you experienced anything such as what Raquel is talking about?
Well, I've experienced some trauma in my life before. I'll be the first. Nothing physical, but I have been in had a few experiences in my life where there was some trauma involved with another human being. And I will say, and that was which leads me to my next question for Raquel, because I actually have two, because there was something that she said that I thought was really interesting about the pandemic. First, I wanted to know, in your therapy with your clients, how much do you include meditation and yoga or is it just pretty much individual? But how much of that is part of the prescription or diagnosis or treatment for people?
It definitely.
Go on.
So it definitely depends on the person that I'm working with. Everybody is open to different forms of healing. Everybody wants a different approach, which is interesting. The American Psychological Association actually backed the use of spirituality in healing of mental health disorders. So there is always an element of spirituality that I integrate into session, but that could look like yoga, that could look like meditation, that could look like actually mindfulness, which is just a present, non-judgmental attitude. And so the hip word in therapy nowadays is mindful, and it comes from a scientifically backed approach for therapy. So a lot of people are starting to integrate this concept of mindfulness into treatment with their clients.
That's awesome. And then my other thing I wanted to mention, you had said that there has been an increase in just abuse cases since the pandemic started. And it made me immediately think of something that happened over the weekend. And then my question was, has there been an increase of animal abuse during the pandemic? And I looked it up, and it apparently, at least this report that I found, said that yes, there has. Just over the weekend, I helped to report what I suspected was a case of animal abuse, where a dog and a rabbit, I know this is bizarre, you guys, was left neglected. And I had to, and they came out and got them. And I reported it. And it was a neighbor and I just noticing it, and I don't even live here in this community, but he and I had just noticed these animals that were left outside, and we kind of started to just put two and two together. I first tried to reach out to animal control, but I guess with it just being the weekend, and also many of these government offices, and some of them which are nonprofit, aren't staffed, and so I couldn't reach anybody, and so I just called the police, and they sent out 2 officers, and they took them. So, from what I've read, they're saying that a lot of pets have been abandoned during this time as well. So,
wow, that's incredibly sad. And I mean, Raquel, you worked with over 300 people that were court ordered to attend, therapy. I mean, what are their initial like reactions when they walk in? I mean, is it hostile, or is it depending on whether or not they believe they were in the right or in the wrong? I mean, how is their attitude usually towards you when they first walk in through your door?
This is always a fun experience for me. I love it. I love it. I love working with people who do not want to come to therapy. Mm-hmm. And I find that when I work with them, these people who are initially resistant, that these are the people that you see the most change in. You can see the changing of attitudes. You can see inflexibility and then become flexible. And I have had so many associations, so many projections placed upon me, just being a woman working with primarily men. And I would have to say that I have felt misogyny. I have felt hostility because of my gender. And at the same time, I have also been associated with the man. I have been told that I am a part of the system. And I was like, what? I'm just here to heal your life. Like, I'm just going to make things better for you. Like, what are you talking about?
The paranoia kicks in.
Right. But initially, you see more defensiveness. You see hostility and anger. And in working with people who use violence, I've actually come to see intimate partner violence, abuse in adult relationships from a different perspective. And here is the unpopular opinion, but it is factually correct. 80% of relationships where domestic violence is occurring, the domestic violence is bi-directional. This means that both parties are abusing each other in some way. I'm not saying both abuse each other physically, but there are multiple forms of abuse. And this stems from, you cannot have a relationship where one person is healthy and one person is not healthy. Mm-hmm. It just doesn't work in that way. A healthy person will not be in a relationship with an unhealthy person because they will not tolerate that sort of behavior. So you have a very layered dynamic between two people that creates domestic violence. Mm-hmm. And this is something that we have to take a look at, because part of the resistance that you're talking about, Xander, and you're asking about, is that these people come in court ordered, found guilty of some sort of physical form of domestic violence. And they're saying, well, my intimate partner calls me really mean names, steals my money. She or he takes away my kids. And we're talking about all these other forms of abuse that the partner is instilling that are non-criminal. Mm-hmm. Wow. Now, unpopular opinion, that is, but let me just say that at the same time, you are not responsible for your partner using abuse against you. Mm-hmm. It is still not okay for your partner to respond to you in an abusive way, even if you abuse them to begin with.
Right. Then in this case, you're like, we're not talking about them, we're talking about you, because you're the one that got the court order, and you were the one that was found guilty.
Yes.
If I could jump in there, Raquel, I love what you said there. Again, to compare it to recovery, you see the biggest changes in the people who are resistant to it most of the time. Mm-hmm. You know, I've seen many people who I've worked with, and I've come through the many meetings and recovery rooms I've been in, who had no interest in being there whatsoever. I mean, who couldn't wait to get out, but were court ordered, you know, because of a DUI, because of abuse, because of whatever. And again, these are the people who a year later are leading the meetings, who are now working with more people than anybody else in the room, who are walking through sobriety with more people and helping more, you know, helping others. And it just seeing those changes in somebody is really exciting. So similar feeling when I see somebody come in the room and they, you know, say they were court ordered or something else, like I get excited. Mm-hmm. You know, because I'm wanting to see what happens. I want to see that change in them, and I want to see that fire get lit under their feet, you know. And I know it's an unpopular opinion, as you said, but it's very true. It is. I've been in an abusive relationship before. When I was drinking, I was not the most pleasant human being in the world. And while I was not a physically violent man to anybody that I loved, if I didn't like you, you were definitely in trouble. But if somebody I loved was not physically in trouble, but I was a verbally abusive person. I was not a pleasant person to be around. Now, in some of those relationships I was in, as you said, I was dealing with levels and forms of abuse on the other side as well. Does not excuse my actions or my behaviors. And that's something people need to realize. And I'm sure you know, in today's society, we're often told to look for, the reason. And while that's a good thing, most of us tend to look for the reason why it's not our fault.
And the thing is that, just to go ahead and piggyback on what you're saying, Jeremy, it's one of those things where when you're court ordered to do certain things, for example, like I had a DUI that I, regret because it was I was hitting a downward spiral in my life because of the situations around me, surrounding myself, just my financial situations, everything. I just, it was a tough time. And I was living kind of a reckless life, not really like hugely reckless, but it was heading in that direction. And me getting that DUI was actually a rude awakening because, granted, it wasn't, I wasn't like sloshed and completely plastered or anything like that when I was driving, but I was still, 0.01 over the legal limit. And, they still got me for that, and they required me to take alcohol classes and things like that. And my experience with those classes weren't bad at all. I actually enjoyed it. They were a lot of fun. The instructors were actually a lot of fun. They knew that we were all there against our will, that we were all there because of stupid mistakes that we made. Some of us were regretful. I was one of those that was regretful of the mistakes that I had made. Others were just like this was like their fourth or fifth time there. But there was one point where I had to actually attend a group therapy. And I gotta tell you, I kind of missed the group therapy because I was able to express how I was feeling, the things I was going through, the actions that I was taking, the people that were surrounding me that were at the time that weren't exactly the best people in the world. Some of them were very toxic in my life. And I got to express a lot of what I was going through, a lot of the feelings that I was going through, a lot of the anger that I was trying to get through, frustrations, many different emotions, negative emotions that I was going through. And it helped out a lot. I actually, after those meetings, I felt refreshed. I felt like it was almost like a confessional. I was able to confess a lot of the things I was holding inside. And it definitely helped me a lot, to the point that I never made a mistake like that ever again. Many people, go through 4 different DUIs. I got one, and that was enough for me. Let me tell you, not only from a financial, point of view, but also from just an emotional one. It just did not help things any better. And I got through it pretty well. But yeah, having therapy, many people may say, "Oh, that's nothing, that doesn't help." It actually does help a lot. And I'm sure Raquel, you get a lot of those too, where, a lot of skeptics that don't believe that therapy is actually, helpful at all or helps them at all. How do you usually deal with skeptics like that?
I play games with them.
Really? And what are these games that you play? I'm curious now.
So I found a long time ago, because I've been doing this work for some time, working with this population, that it comes from a place of trauma. That somewhere along the lines, they have learned to use violence and abuse to solve problems. You see this behavior, the acting out of how you feel rather than talking about it, in children. And when we talk about big emotions, we are talking about our child parts. We are talking about our childhood experiences that we haven't resolved or worked through. And I just one day had this light bulb go off. And also I was like, man, I'm tired of hitting brick walls every single day. Like, this is becoming frustrating for me. What can I do? I decided to start to integrate play therapy into my approach with working with people who are court ordered. And I actually have gone on to speak at international conferences, training other people to use therapy games with this population, because if you look for it, it's not out there. Not a lot of people are using this approach. So we started to play games, and this is not only like board games, card games, but like movement games. So this is where, you know, when you asked Lonnie about using this stuff in practice, we are doing like, it's called a 10-minute walk, and you use 10 minutes to walk from wall to wall of maybe a 30-foot space, right? So these are like mindfulness stuff that we do, just different, to get them moving, to get them in touch with different parts of themselves, and to make it fun so that they can trust me. So doing human things with them, treating them like human beings instead of these bad offenders, because we've all done things that we're not proud of. You just connect with them on a human level, and that encourages them to share their life with you.
That really speaks to me, Raquel. I remember when I went through teacher training, and there's a young lady who I'm still friends with today because we bonded through this experience. One of the things that they had us do was we did this mindfulness exercise where she and I were sitting down, legs were crossed, and lotus position, and you had to take a minute or less and stare into the other person's eyes. I don't know if this was the same, if you would consider this the same. And after we did the exercise and everyone was facing someone, we went around in the room to just say what it felt like what we saw when we were staring in each other's eyes. I noticed that her eyes were blue, but they also had like these flickers of hazel and green. And it almost was after a while that it was wild. You could almost see or feel their innermost feelings just from staring in their eyes. It was really moving. And till this day, I still speak to this person, and we just felt like we bonded over that experience. It's amazing.
Absolutely. So I pick up a lot of my tools that I use in therapy from experiences that I've had. And it's funny that you mentioned that, because I actually do that same activity in my groups. It's called staring contest. And I have two grown adult men stare at each other in the eyes without words for 1 minute. And then we talk about exactly what you're talking about, their experiences, what they saw, how they felt.
I mean, I have a question. Jeremy, do you want to stare at me for 1 minute?
I can't stare at you for 1 second.
Come on, it'll be fun.
If I can jump in real quick, Raquel, you said something that's so important. You really did. I got to comment on it. When you were talking about trauma and how you use these things to address that, people don't realize how big that is and how much those childhood traumas play a role in our lives. It's not a very popular opinion outside of the mental health industry. Politicians don't get it. Most people don't get it. But Russell Brand actually said it. The man is really, really brilliant when it comes to recovery. And he said it. He said, pot is not a gateway. Alcohol's not a gateway. You want to talk about a gateway, address the trauma. Trauma is the gateway. And I love that more people in therapy are beginning to address that more. It's always been a central part, but it's become even more realized now in this community how much it really is a gateway into all of those destructive behaviors. I mean, as you said, Raquel, the violence, as I can comment on, the addictions, all of that. It is those traumas. I mean, I can speak personally. My alcoholism was almost 100% rooted in my trauma of sexual abuse as a child. I could not deal with it. at all. And alcohol and drugs were the only thing that made it go away. You know, people do not realize the magnitude of those traumas that happened to us early on. And I'm really glad you said that, because people don't address that enough.
And from what I understand, Raquel, you also have a special interest in, I mean, this is in going with what Jeremy is talking about. You have a special interest in working with people who have not only been incarcerated, but also childhood sexual abuse and autistic people.
Yes, I am so just grateful for Jeremy sharing that, because we know that men and boys underreport their victimization of childhood sexual abuse. And as survivors of sexual abuse, we should not have shame to talk about that, because it's not our shame to carry. And I am just so grateful that you shared that. If I could just kind of summarize my whole understanding of even domestic violence and hate in our communities and anger and aggression towards others, it would be rooted in what Russell Brand was talking about, and what you highlighted, Jeremy, is that trauma is a gateway to so many things. Domestic violence is a symptom of trauma. Domestic violence, anger, aggression, hate towards other people is a symptom of something that we're dealing with from our own experience.
And I'm curious, you know, because you also expressed that you also had special interest in working with autistic people. Have you worked with any autistic people? Because I mean, that right there is a challenge, from what I understand.
No, actually, I think they're the coolest people I know.
Really?
Yeah. I have several friends who are also autistic, and they're just like anybody else, but a little bit different. I work with this population because I know it very intimately. I have a family member who has autism, and I understand them, I think, differently, understand people with autism differently because of that experience. And I just find that I fit in better with autistic people. It's really funny. But it's been really rewarding for me to work with this population and allow them to advocate for themselves.
Do you find, Raquel, because I too in my family have experience, I have a few, have autistic person, and there's a certain honesty that I feel like oftentimes people don't value enough, that you often, and I might be generalizing, but that you can get from someone who's autistic.
It's interesting that we spend so much time focusing on autistic people being social and teaching them how to be social and teaching them how to be good listeners. Mm-hmm. And then we forget that we gave them all this education, and when they're adults, they're great listeners. Mm-hmm. They know social stuff because you've made them study it for the past 18 years. And I believe that we continue the stigma, though, when they get into adulthood. And it's like, oh, you're autistic, you have these social deficits. But it's like, actually, they have a lot of strengths that we have reinforced within them, and natural strengths that we could learn something from their experience.
Agree.
Wow. Well, I mean, I'm glad that you're doing your part to expand your horizons a bit. You've also expanded your horizons as a featured blogger with something entitled "The Pretty Brain." Now, I gotta tell you folks out there right now, Raquel is a very beautiful woman. Incredibly beautiful. And I believe that because of that, you get, you get a little flack for that from like you said, you've experienced misogyny, and you've also experienced some, haters of the opposite of the same gender, so I mean, I'm pretty sure that people, when they see you, and I think you've expressed this to me before, they don't really know how intelligent you really are until you start talking, and they're like, wow, I didn't know that came out of you. So, I mean, like, how's your experience been as far as that's concerned? I mean, is that the reason why you entitled this The Pretty Brain?
So I want to first give credit to The Pretty Brain for Jess Hines. She is a woman that I went to college with, and she's editor-in-chief, the creator of The Pretty Brain. I just came along and assisted them. This is a blog for women, and it's titled All Brain, None of the Bullshit. We're getting straight down to what mental health really is as women, nice. not some powdery, like, self-care, buy this detox tea. That's not what what it's about. It's about the realness of experiencing mental health issues. I appreciate you highlighting my struggle.
Well, because you've expressed it to me many times, and I'm just like, that's just not right for people to automatically assume it's just because you're an attractive woman, you have no brain. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense sometimes. People should at least, you'd think that in this day and age, there would be, there'd be a little bit more common sense than that.
It's definitely a privilege and a struggle. I do not think that I am what people expect, especially when you're court ordered to come to therapy and all of a sudden this 6 foot tall, blonde hair, blue eye in heels and lipstick is sitting right in front of you, And I also take a lot of clients who use insurance, so they don't know what I look like and they're just assigned to me because of my agency. So they don't expect to see me as a therapist, and I'm young too. Although, with that experience, I've had a lot of negative experiences with that. I try to be mindful, not negative, a lot of learning opportunities from that to see, how people view me and learning to also use that in a particular light. If I have a uniqueness about me, if anybody has a uniqueness about them and you can capture someone's attention for 5 minutes, use that 5 minutes to spread a good message. And that's what I do.
Nice. Well, that's a good thing. And I mean, I remember you also expressed frustration at times as well when you used to do therapy for couples because you used to get kind of flack from the guy's girl, or even guys trying to flirt with you in front of the girl or something like that. I believe it was. I mean, have you been able to overcome that little obstacle?
No. I wish I could say it was true, but it's not.
An honest answer.
Yeah.
I can't control what other people do. I can only control my reactions. I do. In the group setting, when I was working with a lot of men a week, I had several men who were court ordered try to hit on me or suggest that they wanted to take me out on dates. And I'm just like, okay, bro, consider the context.
Wow.
Way to put it.
You got to give them an A for effort.
It's like, date your therapist? Really, dude?
And you're here for domestic violence.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. That I don't think that's going to fly too well. But I mean, I thought I was actually, confused for a second. I'm glad you clarified that the Pretty Brain is actually a blog that you're featured on. I thought you had created that blog, so that's why I was a little confused. Thank you for clarifying that. And I'm glad that you're featured on that. You're also a co-host for the Epic Voices and Conversations podcast. I believe that's a podcast that you just started?
Yes, it is. I work with another mental health professional. His name is Dave Matthews, the real Dave Matthews.
Nice. Nice.
He is a wonderful therapist who I have known over the last couple of years, and we decided to team up with a internationally recognized organization called the Institute on Violence, Abuse, and Trauma, and we are helping them with their media efforts.
Awesome. And you're also the owner of Duct Tape Productions, which is a multimedia production company.
This is true, man. It's starting to sound like, is there anything I don't do?
Right? Jane of all trades over here.
Mm-hmm. I don't skateboard.
Oh, okay. Well, nobody's perfect, I guess. No, that's really cool, though. You got your hands in a lot of cookie jars. I mean, what's Duct Tape Productions about, though, exactly?
So Duct Tape Productions is a long time in the making. I have been creating content of all sorts for basically since the internet started. And I have just decided to help other people to monetize what they would call the side hustle and to use another platform to spread awareness and prevention of violence, abuse, and trauma. So we make videos, I make podcasts, we make images and pictorials. We put together events, collaborations.
Nice. Nice. That's really cool. That's really cool. And I know that you've been asked to be speaker at many conferences. I mean, what's the most recent conference that you've asked to be a speaker at, or which ones are coming up that you're going to be speaking at?
So I have just presented at the Institute on Violence, Abuse, and Trauma, their 25th annual summit. It was virtual this year, so that was my first time presenting virtually other than Facebook live feeds and that. I am on the planning committee with the Institute on Violence, Abuse, and Trauma, and we're working on a self-care track. So this is teaching people about self-care and mental health, and I will be submitting for those upcoming conferences. They have a Hawaii conference. Unfortunately, not this year, won't be in Hawaii because of COVID. But
you must be disappointed about that one.
I am. I've never been.
That's really cool, though. I mean, it seems like you've had a very active career. I mean, but besides therapy, you're also a professional fitness model, and you have a lot of brands that. Oh no, she's doing it, y'all.
I don't even think I put that on my biography. We're talking about things I didn't even list.
I definitely have to follow you, Raquel, on Instagram, and follow me after this too.
We'll definitely get to that portion soon. But I mean, when it comes to a fitness model, I mean, besides, you didn't have to put it anywhere because because I follow you on Instagram and you post exercise videos. I mean, and you do this to basically promote mental health, because a lot of,
that's awesome.
And Lonnie, you could attest to this as well, that a lot of, positive thinking, positive, thoughts and everything are derived from physical activities, physical fitness. It's also been proven that physical fitness also enhances endorphins, or, releases endorphins. That's why, fit people are usually very positive, very happy, and, et cetera. So, I mean, I'm assuming that therapy and physical fitness go hand in hand in this particular case, Raquel.
Except if you use steroids.
Well, yeah, obviously. You got that roid rage going, but yeah. I mean, it's one of those things where I'm sure, Raquel, you've definitely, besides obviously, roid rage does make, have, issues with people. But I mean, for the most part, I think that, I believe that you definitely have gotten a lot of positive feedback from people that watch you do your workouts, and you post a lot of workout routines on your social media. I mean, have you gotten a lot of positive feedback from that as well?
I am a sponsored athlete with BioHealth Nutrition. It is an internet-only supplement company. They have some really good pasture-free, animal cruelty-free products, and they've came out with a vegan line as well.
Oh, and real quick, I'm sorry to cut you off there. Yes, I got to agree with you on that, because you actually sent me protein powder from that company, and I got to tell you, it's really tasty. It's actually really good.
Their standard vanilla is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't need any fancy anything. Their vanilla and their mochaccino, which you put in your coffee as a creamer.
Yeah, wow. No, and I agree. And, did they approach you? Like, how did that whole thing happen?
Yes, I got approached by BioHealth with a rep of theirs a couple years back. They were very interested in my social media presence at the time. This was 7 years ago, before social media, marketing became a thing. And I just started using their supplement because I was dealing with some mental health issues that impacted my physical body, had a lot of very poor habits, poor relationship with food, poor self-confidence. And as a result, that was reflected in my physical body. And as I started to recover with my mental health, I started to be able to use my body in the way that I wanted. I was able to get into fitness at a kind of a deeper level and, get into bodybuilding. And so they saw me go through that process and they said, hey, we'd really like to team up with you. And it has never been about selling the product or marketing the product, because I don't sell the product, but it's never been about marketing the product, but using the platform that I have to talk about mental health and the mind-body connection, talking about the importance of working with your mental health, and that could improve your physical state. And I'm interested in hearing, Lonnie's perspective on that, because yoga, meditation, sometimes you don't even have to move to be physical.
Absolutely. It's funny that you should mention that, Raquel, and thank you for including me in the discussion. Just recently took just anecdotal story, took a road trip with a friend of mine down to Laguna Beach for the weekend, and she's into yoga, and she doesn't teach, but she's a hardcore yogi and, very, very strong. Can do many of the challenging, very advanced arm balances and various things, which I do, but I try sometimes shy away from stressing that kind of stuff so much because I feel like yoga has become so westernized that people forget the biggest part of it, which was around, it's ancient, long before the physical practice, the spiritual practice, the mental practice, meditation. And so while we were in Laguna, when you're on a road trip with someone, you get to know them better. And we spent like two to 3 days together. And I remember each morning when we got up, it's kind of a routine for me. I meditate. That's part of starting my day. Before I try to do it, before I do anything, if I can, and I don't always do it, before I look at my phone, before I check to see what's going out outside, just take some time to just take some deep breaths and meditate. And what was interesting on the trip is I found out my friend, I would go to practice with her and I would see her in the studio all the time, but she doesn't really meditate. And, we were talking about it and it almost became to the point where we were taking pictures on the beach and, just having fun. And I didn't mind taking yoga pictures of her, but it got to the point where it was like the pose had to be perfect in a certain way. And I kept telling her, look, just by the fact that you're doing it and you're doing the practice, it's not about the perfect picture. It's about the practice. And so I just feel like oftentimes people get so caught up in the appearance of physical fitness and whether it be yoga or whatever, and they don't enjoy the process enough, because I've learned the process is where you really grow. And talking about that, Lonnie, I got to ask you as well. Sure.
I mean, when it comes to like doing the yoga poses and things like that, I mean, does it have to be perfect, or is the whole purpose of it is, don't think, just do. It doesn't have to be perfect, just as long as you give it a shot and as long as it relaxes you. I mean, is that kind of the purpose of that?
Well, there's definitely certain principles of alignment that I, will often stress with people to get them going in the right direction so that you don't hurt yourself. Mm-hmm. So in that sense, yes. But in terms of how you look, the appearance of it, everyone is different. We all have different bodies. Our bodies are going to look different. That's what's beautiful about us, So there's a certain pose that I'll do. I'm 5'10". I'm going to look completely different than my friend who I'm talking about, who's more petite. And she's very strong. She's built like a gymnast. We're different in that way. And there's certain poses that are more challenging for me, being taller and longer, and poses for her that are easier. But what's important is just the process to get there, to make sure that you're doing the steps and taking the steps so that your alignment is right, so that you're breathing deeply, and most importantly, so you don't injure yourself.
Nice. Yeah, because I tried yoga for a little bit, and I was kind of messing up here and there, but that's beside the point.
Just the fact that you were doing those, Xander. Awesome.
I got to give it a shot again. I mean, it was actually it was stretching a lot of kinks that I had in my body. So, I mean, I gotta admit that it does help a lot, and it helps relax me a lot. So, but, Raquel, aside from that, I mean, you've always said that you've been kind of, posting content out for years. Recently, since you started, since you got, since you got more deeper into your career, you've been posting on Facebook. You've been doing Facebook Lives, in regards to different topics that are happening that day, emotional topics that happen, surrounding different high profile people or just in general. I mean, how has the response been, especially right now during coronavirus? I'm sure that the response has been pretty high regarding, your live Facebook, things that you've been doing on Facebook Live.
My Facebook Live comes from and generates from my personal Facebook page. And I do this for kind of myself to just stay in tune with society, because I don't watch TV, I don't watch the news. I kind of just really limit myself. If I'm interested in something, I'll go to a .gov website and I'll read about it. And I hear about these things and I try to really stay away from it too, because I am empathetic. I am very sensitive to just the environment. And so I stay away from that stuff a lot. But when I do hear things, I feel that it's kind of healing for me and also informative for other people to see a different perspective on a situation. So I do share from my own personal perspective of someone who has the knowledge and information of psychology and kind of a little bit of that background to give my opinion on a situation or what's going on. I want my audience to walk away with a different perspective on whatever it is they're saying, one that's more centered in balance and wisdom, which is a combination of the logic and the feeling, because some of the topics that have been going on recently are very emotionally charged and create a lot of divide. And I think we need harmony during that time.
No, and I completely agree with that. And then speaking of, social media, how can people stalk you on social media to go ahead and check out some of the things that you're offering, to the public?
I would definitely go to Instagram as my primary page. This is the all-inclusive page of Raquel, including the Pretty Brain, including biohealth nutrition, including therapy resources, lots of links from there. And that you're going to have to definitely put the Instagram handle in the caption of this, because it is my initials, but they are spelled out. So it's ARRBEEGEE. Instagram is a place that you're going to see all the unique content. I post the most there, lots of reposting of different great articles from other people, because it's a community of mental health and not just me.
Nice. Well, Raquel Buchanan, thank you so much for being on the Xander Effect. Appreciate your time. And, hopefully we'll have you back on here again. I'd love to go ahead and get your opinion from time to time, to see what you think about certain topics that we talk about. And would definitely love to have you here again.
Great. Anytime.
Awesome. Coming up next in sports, we got a lot of things to talk about in sports, including the fact of the matter that one of the golfers, Sergio Garcia, tested positive for COVID-19. So we'll definitely go ahead and talk a little bit about that. But first, here is Garth Brooks' "Friends in Low Places" right here on the Xander Effect.
Blame it all on my roots. I showed up in boots and ruined your black tie affair. The last one to know, the last one to show, I was the last one you thought you'd see there. And I saw the surprise and the fear in his eyes when I took his glass of champagne. I toasted you, said, honey, we may be through, but you'll never hear me complain. 'Cause I got friends in low places where the whiskey drowns and the beer chases my blues away. And I'll be okay. I'm not big on social graces, think I'll slip on down to the oasis. So I've got friends in low places. Well, I guess I was wrong. I just don't belong. But then I've been there before. Everything's alright. I'll just say goodnight and I'll show myself to the door. Hey, I didn't mean to cause a big scene. Just give me an hour and then we'll all be as high as that ivory tower that you're living in. 'Cause I got friends in old places where the whiskey drowns and the beer chases my blues away. And I'll be okay. Yeah, I'm not big on social graces. Think I'll slip on down to the oasis. So I've got a friend in low places. I've got friends in low places where the whiskey drowns and the beer chases my blues away. And I'll be okay. I'm not big on social graces. Think I'll slip on down to the oasis. So I got friends in low places. I got friends in low places where the whiskey drowns and the beer chases my blues away. And I'll be okay. I'm not big on social graces. Think I'll slip on down to the oasis. So I got friends in low places. I got friends in low places where the whiskey drowns and the beer chases my blues away.
Hey, what's up, guys? This is Ariane Celeste.
This is Larry Neymar, the founder of E! Entertainment Television.
Hi, this is Maricela Cornell.
Hey, how's it going? This is Polo Molina.
Hey, yo, what's up? This is the Xander Effect, and I am the DJ KID, the Kick the Creek. Welcome to the place to be.
Y2K!
She's like a train you never saw coming. She'll hit you like a bomb boom and leave you with nothing. Her smile will knock you out like Novocaine to the brain. You'll never be the same. Her eyes will strip you down right out of your blue jeans. Get under your skin, don't you know what I mean? She'll make you think you're the king of everything. Then she'll blow it all up with gasoline. You can be a fool and fall if you wanna, but if you fall now, you're gonna be a goddess. She's a slick, smooth, slide, heartbreaking machine. She's a runaway, runaway, runaway queen. You can stick around like all the others, and you can check out before you discover she's an in-and-out chick. Boy, take it from me. She's a runaway, runaway, runaway queen. She'll make you think that she's staying, but you're just another stop on the trail she's blazing. There are a string of broken hearts from east to west. What a mess. I wonder who's next. You can be a fool and fall if you wanna, but if you fall now, you're gonna be a goner. She's a slick, smooth, slide, heartbreaking machine. She's a runaway, runaway, runaway queen. You can stick around like all the others, and you can check out before you discover she's an in-and-out chick. Boy, take it from me. She's a runaway, runaway, runaway queen. Run, 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 run away. Run, 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 run away. Run, 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 run away. You can be a fool and fall if you wanna, but if you fall now, you're gonna be a goner. She's a slick, smooth, slide, heartbreaking machine. She's a runaway, runaway, runaway queen. You can stick around like all the others, and you can check out before you discover she's an in-and-out chick. Boy, take it from me. She's a runaway, runaway, runaway queen. You can be a fool and fall if you wanna, but if you fall now, you're gonna be a goner. She's a slick, smooth, slide, heartbreaking machine. She's a runaway, runaway, runaway queen. You can stick around like all the others, and you can check out before you discover she's an in-and-out chick. Boy, take it from me. She's a runaway, runaway, runaway queen.
That was Cambry Love C's Runaway Queen right here on the Xander Effect. Man, you guys, that was an incredible interview with Raquel. She is just such a wonderful person. She's a beautiful person inside and out. And, Raquel, I'm so happy that you got to be a part of the Xander Effect. Hopefully we'll have you on here again. I mean, what'd you guys think?
She was
great.
fantastic.
Yeah, no, it was great having her on. Very knowledgeable, and it was great to hear her opinions on all of that because she definitely knows her stuff.
And I love the fact that she loves the challenge of getting people to open up. She enjoys that. That's awesome. Very passionate about her work, and her work is needed right now. Big
Definitely. I agree with that. Like, especially these days, we're all cooped up inside, trying to remain isolated, trying to watch out. It's ironic because while we're inside trying to, take care of one another and watch one another, we are also there's some out there that are being abusive while they're quote taking care of one another. It's the irony of things. But definitely, if you need, if any of you out there need someone to talk to, if you're victims of domestic violence or anything like that, please feel free to follow Raquel on her Instagram. She said what her Instagram was. Go ahead and check her out, contact her, find our contact information on there, contact contact her if you need any help, or just in general, if any of you are victims of domestic violence or anything like that, please, find help. Look for somebody to talk to. Look for help. I mean, like Jeremy said, you're not alone. There's many people that are victims of abuse. So make sure you go ahead and look for the proper help out there. So, but moving forward in sports, Sergio Garcia, golfer, tests positive for COVID, and he withdraws from the Master. And the thing is that, he actually won the Masters back in 2017. He went ahead and announced it, saying, quote, "On Saturday night after driving back from the Houston Open, I started feeling a bit of a sore throat and a cough. The symptoms stayed with me on Sunday morning, so I decided to get tested for COVID-19, and so did my wife, Angela. Thankfully, she tested negative, but I didn't. After 21 years of not missing a major championship, I will sadly miss the Masters this week. The important thing is that my family and I are feeling good. We'll come back stronger and give the green jacket to go next April." Give the green jacket a go next April. So, unfortunately, COVID strikes again in golf, and Sergio's going to have to miss this one. But Jeremy, you said that you had some news regarding the Masters.
Well, it's just been announced as well, and let me start by saying I wish Sergio all the best. Hope for a speedy recovery there. It's awful to hear, especially, it's always heartbreaking for these guys to miss what is considered the seminal event of every year in the golf season. So wish him all the best, but we have some good news coming out of the Masters, and it was just announced that Lee Elder, who was the very first black man to ever play in the Masters, will actually be one of the honorary starters of the tournament this year. So finally, this organization that has had a rather backwards attitude for many, many years is starting to get on board. So, we have Augusta has its first female member now. I believe they have more than one. We have black members now.
Yes.
Now,
praise God.
The man who, amen, and the man who broke that ceiling, everybody thinks of Tiger Woods as being the one who really broke through, but Lee Elder, 50 years ago now, broke that barrier first. And they're honoring him finally. That's really, really awesome. He's being, it's been tradition for many years that Arnold Palmer, Jack Nicklaus, Gary Player, all these other guys who had won the Masters they won. That was the difference. Right. They were being brought back as champions. Well, Lee Elder, may not have won, but he won a lot of other things that day, and for them to bring him forward and recognize that is a long time in coming and a really welcome thing to hear.
That's awesome.
Fantastic.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I'm glad to hear that as well. And, the Masters should be a very interesting tournament. So we'll definitely keep an eye on that.
It's postponed from April because of the pandemic.
Oh, really? That I didn't know.
Yeah, because I was like, the Masters, normally it's not happening this time of year. Yeah, the reason why they're actually even holding it this year, and the weather, from what I've seen, has been pretty nice down in Georgia, is because of COVID, because it normally takes place in April.
I didn't know that. I actually didn't. I had no idea about that. So thank you for that, Lonnie. I appreciate that. In other sports news, and this is going back because I know, Lonnie, you're a boxing fan. You like this. You definitely like the sport. And so does Jeremy. Evander Holyfield is calling out Mike Tyson, and basically he wants next after Mike Tyson takes on Roy Jones Jr. on November 28th. And basically Evander Holyfield, he wants that rematch. I mean, we all know the situation that happened between Tyson and Holyfield. Tyson biting off his ear in the middle of the boxing match, and it just I guess Evander still wants a piece of him because he's like, I'm not over that. You may have apologized and whatever, but I still want a piece. And it makes a lot of sense for that rematch because that's kind of a story without an ending. It never really ended. It was kind of that win that Holyfield got from Tyson was due to a disqualification, and it holds an asterisk over Holyfield's head that I think that he just is like, you know what? I want that. I want to.
Let me walk you back there for a second, though. Hold on, because that's not exactly accurate. Now, the first fight, the fact that he has the win with the asterisk, yes, he does, because of the biting incident. What you have to remember is that was the second fight.
True.
The first fight, Holyfield dominated him, beat him round to round, every round. I mean, just dominated him head to toe. And Mike Tyson's ego couldn't handle it. You have to understand the rivalry those two men had. They hated each other in their primes, in the 90s. Before Tyson went to prison, the only thing Holyfield thought about every day was destroying Mike Tyson.
Wow.
He hated the fact that this man was considered better than him and was considered the greatest, and he wasn't even in the discussion. It drove him every single day. And as a boxing fan who really followed it, at that point, Mike Tyson had already lost what made him great. I know I've talked about this on the show before. You know, Mike Tyson was a boxer. When he had Customato in his corner, he could box. Now, people don't remember that because all they remember is him taking guys' heads off in 19 seconds. But he could move. He could box. He went to the body like nobody I had ever seen at that point. He had all the skills. Now, by the time he lost to Buster Douglas and had been in line for this fight with Holyfield, he had lost that. Customato had died. He'd fired his longtime trainers, and he was surrounded by yes men. And every fight he had was just him going out there and trying to knock the guy's head off. All the boxing was gone. Most of the head movement was gone. He was not the same fighter. If had they met, had he not gone to jail and had Holyfield and him met, I honestly believe in 1991 or whatever it was, Evander Holyfield would have destroyed Tyson in that fight. A fight we never got to see. Now, that's just my opinion. But Tyson had lost it at that point. He was still the most dangerous man in the ring because of his sheer power. But a technician like Holyfield would have taken him apart. And again, we saw it when they finally came back together in the ring. That first fight, Holyfield beat him like a redheaded stepchild, to use a poor phrase. I mean, he absolutely, I mean, Mike Tyson's face was so swollen after that fight.
Yeah, it was bad. I remember that.
You know, and
oh my goodness.
So Holyfield proved what he needed to prove already. Now, was he pissed after getting his ear bit off? Who the hell wouldn't be?
Oh yeah.
And I'm sure he would love to get a little payback for that.
You think he might bite him back?
Absolutely not. God, would you want to bite Tyson? What do you think you'd get?
I'm just saying, one bite deserves another. I mean, and Lonnie, what are your thoughts on this whole thing?
Hey guys, while you guys were talking about this whole thing, I looked it up on Wikipedia because that's just what I do. And that
nice.
Just saying. And this fight, was back in 1997. They call it the bite fight.
Yes.
Yeah.
And just going back during that time, not to be graphic, but yeah, Tyson was disqualified. And they said that he actually bit a portion of his ear, not to be too graphic for the listeners here. And I'm surprised I can even say this without puking, but known as the helix, I believe. And then he spatted the flesh onto the canvas.
Yeah, they had pictures of it. They had pictures of the piece on the canvas.
Well, I watched the fight live.
Me too.
And you saw him spit it out. I mean, you saw the flesh leave his mouth. It was in the video. I mean, watching it, you didn't even need them to play it back. You saw it. If you were watching the fight, you saw him rip his head away from Holyfield's head and spit something out. And everybody knew what happened. It was like, he bit him. Oh my God, he bit him. Yeah. It was insane.
And Tyson had, I guess they questioned him later about it, and he said that the reason why he did it was because he was tired of the headbutts. And so that was like retaliation for that.
Yeah, and that's something that's been commented on many times by a lot of boxing analysts. And the truth is, Tyson and Holyfield were guys whose styles, their heads led them a lot of times.
Okay.
Because they bobbed, they weaved, and they both would come up into you as they punched. So when you have two fighters who do that a lot, you can get a lot of head jostling. It's not exactly an intentional thing, but it does happen. And it was something that at that time, Tyson's temper and ego couldn't handle.
Wow.
I mean,
He even said it in years later. Sorry to cut you up, but he's even said it years later in some of his more lucid moments that, you know, it was just the sheer rage that came over him after getting hit in the face so many times by the guy's head. And again, to him, it seemed intentional. To people watching the fight, it looked like two boxers who have kind of clashing styles, and it was their heads coming together while they were trying to do what they were trying to do.
Right.
I mean, it should be an interesting, if in fact Tyson agrees to do this fight, it should be a very interesting one because, I mean, it's years later.
No!
Both
He's
men.
58.
Well,
he's 58.
here's the thing. They're saying, Evander Holyfield's camp is basically saying, quote, it's not even about the money at this point. I think Tyson is scared. We've offered multiple times, and Tyson versus Holyfield is the fight that should happen. So there's people, surrounded by Holyfield that are saying that, they should go ahead and do, the third, fight against them to go ahead and finish it completely. But if they were to accept this, both fighters are older. Both fighters, they pretty much hit that age limit. And who knows? I don't know. Do you think? Lonnie, do you think it's coming from physical fitness world? Do you think it would be prudent for them to go ahead and go through with this?
No, but you know what? People
like
will
that.
do
No,
anything.
not at all.
People
like
will
that.
do anything these days for money. Just saying.
True. I mean, it's a tough one, and I know Jeremy, for you for sure don't want this to happen.
No, I absolutely don't, and I understand it. As Lonnie said, people nowadays will do anything for money. And as I said last time we discussed this, it's hard to take the fighter out of a fighter. These are fighters. These are guys who have lived, bred, and ate, slept, and breathed fighting. That's what they do. They compete. They are fighters. That's how they challenge themselves. That's how they prove themselves to themselves. And to take that away, or not take that away, but to dangle that again in front of them, that opportunity, of course they're going to be enticed by it.
Right. And I might add one thing to that. How people always say the expression about if you're fighting with a bear, who would you help? Who do you think would win? I tell you, the only human on the planet that I think probably could beat a bear, like one of those bears in Montana, I put my money on Tyson.
The man's still a beast, and as we said, even Roy Jones, who's getting in the ring with him, was like, I may have made a mistake. This is a man who can hurt you. He's a very physically powerful human being, and whether he's lost a step or not, he's fighting other people who have also lost a step. So that is a little comforting, in that he's not trying to make a comeback. These guys have all made ridiculous statements about, I'm going to come back and I'm going to fight, Lennox Lewis or Tyson Fury or whoever's the reigning, heavyweight champion at the time. And I just don't want to see these guys get killed. I don't want to see them get hurt. Right. And I also don't want to see, it's like, I'm sorry. Nowadays, I know people have different opinions on this. Some people may want to. If the Rolling Stones decide to tour right now, I'm not going to go see them.
Right.
I'm sorry. I don't want to see the 79-year-old version of the Rolling Stones. It's not of interest to me. I don't want to see them when they've lost what made them great. And I don't want to see that in athletes either. So beyond just my physical worry for them, as a fan, I don't want to see them sticking around longer than they should.
Right.
It's sad to watch athletes that we admired and loved so much hanging on to the last thread when their skills have declined so much.
Yeah, we were a big fans of Sugar Ray Leonard when I grew up.
Oh, Sugar.
Yeah, and I one thing I loved how classy he was, and I loved the fact that the one time when he was starting to have issues with his eye, I believe it was a detached retina, he decided, you know what, it's time to leave. It's time to do something else.
Yeah. Sometimes you got to know when to hold them and know when to fold them.
Similar to Marvin Hagler. You know, Marvin Hagler was at the top of his game. His only loss at that point, I believe, was to Sugar Ray Leonard.
Wow.
And they hadn't had their rematch that everybody wanted. And it was just a time in his life. Marvin Hagler, other opportunities were popping up. He was being offered films. He was being offered all these different things. He actually became a fairly successful movie star in Italy, but he was being offered an opportunity to support himself and make a life for himself where he didn't have to put his health at risk all the time. And Marvin Hagler, I mean, we're talking about one of the toughest SOBs around. I mean, he was one of the most hardcore, tough, the guy you didn't want to get in the ring with kind of guys. And he walked away at the top of his game to protect his health. You know, I respect that a lot. I really do. As I've said before, as much of a fan of boxing as I am, no one should be doing it.
Right. It's violent. Let's just keep it real.
Yes, let's keep it real. From a physical standpoint, if we're talking about your health, no one should be boxing. At all. It shouldn't be happening. The repeated blows to the head are so dangerous. Yes,
and
Lon.
I'm going to say, as much as I love football and I grew up in a football town, I don't want my nephew playing football. I know that's terrible. I don't want him playing football just because how violent it is.
Well, I can agree with that. My oldest son, you know, my fiance was from Texas. Our boys were raised there. That's where they grew up. Football was in their blood. My oldest played football from 6 years old on. And by the time I got him, he loved football. So what was I going to do? I wasn't going to stop him.
Right.
You know, so we supported him and he played and he was very good. He was defensive team captain. He made varsity as a freshman. He was very good, but it was a worry. And although I was proud that he had made the team as a freshman, I was worried because his body is a freshman's body and he was going to be playing this violent game against juniors and seniors.
Right.
Now, for me, that was an issue, and it scared me. And in one of, I think it was his third or fourth game, my son got a horrific concussion. And I mean horrific. He got blindsided on the side. It was one of those, he was a linebacker and he was lining up the running back. He had him on the sideline and was about to tackle him. I mean, he's maybe a yard from him, has him lined up. And this offensive lineman blindsides him.
Ouch.
And literally knocked him through the air about 8 feet into the sidelines and where the people were standing.
Oh, as a parent,
I lost my mind.
I was about to say, as a parent, you must have wanted to go down there and just go nuts.
Well, yes and no. It was a brilliant hit. It was a legal hit. So I wasn't furious at the kid. I understand the sport. Had it been a cheap shot, I'm not sure I could have stayed off the field. You know, but it wasn't a cheap shot. And my kid popped right back up. It was a delayed concussion. He played the entire first half with a really horrific, serious concussion.
Wow.
By the time by the time they got into halftime, he went in and the concussion set in. When they walked out for halftime, he turned into a zombie.
Yeah.
The next thing I know, I'm in the stands. The second half has started, and I'm here screaming from the sideline, and it's this coach screaming at me, "Jeremy, get down here. Jeremy, get down here." And I'm up in the bleachers, and, you know, those are like, 12, 15 feet, you know, up from the field. I literally hurdled the bars and, 20 feet, 15, 20 feet down to the field, and just ran down to where my son, and he's looking right through me. He didn't know me. He didn't know his mother. He was gone.
Wow.
So again, one of my worst fears was realized right then. I mean, he had a serious brain injury. It took 3.5 hours for him to recognize his own mother.
Oh my God. Wow.
Okay,
That's crazy.
3.5 hours.
That's crazy.
So again, at this point, I felt like maybe we needed to pull him out.
I'm sure he wasn't too happy with that.
He was not happy with it, and we came to an agreement. And I said, okay, if this is what you want, you can continue playing. If you get one more head injury, I don't care how severe, you're done, and there's no arguments. And sure enough, his sophomore year, in practice, before the season even starts, he got his bell rung and he got a mild concussion that affected his eyesight. And he came to me and said, Dad, I got a concussion. I need to stop. We didn't even have to make the decision for him at that point.
He did it for himself. That's good. That's a responsible kid.
Well, when that second one hit and it affected his vision, it was something tangible that he was conscious and coherent of, that he could see the damage and was like, this is something long-term. This is a problem. So he came to us and said, I'm not doing this anymore. Now, given he wasn't going to have that choice anyway at that point, but he came to that decision on his own.
Well, I mean, it's tough being a parent of an athlete. I mean, when I was in high school, my mom, like, I begged and pleaded for her to let me play football. She was like, nope, not a chance. There's no way. That was her bottom line, and there was no changing her mind, specifically because I had cousins that had played football at the same high school that I went to. I went to the same high school, and she would see one of my cousins consistently get his leg broken. Something was always breaking, and she's like, there's no way in hell. First of all, we don't have that much money for medical insurance, to go ahead and cover that. And secondly, no, I don't want to see you get broken out there. There's no way. And that just never happened. And unfortunately I never got to play, but I mean, and ironically enough, she wanted me to go ahead and play soccer. And I'm like, do you have any idea how that's football without the pads? Okay. Right. I mean, that's worse. At least I have protection out there with the pads, but soccer, that's football without the pads, so It's just I think my mom never really comprehended the difference between the two, but it's definitely a very hardcore sport. And I mean, as far as Tyson and Holyfield go, we'll see if Tyson agrees to it. Who knows? That's gonna be something. That's definitely gonna be something that I'm gonna be keeping an eye on for sure. In other sports news, talking about football and injuries in football, the Washington football team QB Kyle Allen is expected to undergo surgery after injuring his ankle, and looks like he has it's a dislocated ankle with a small fracture. And from what they're saying, it's almost very similar to Dak Prescott's injury, to the point that Kyle Allen might actually miss the entire season. Still not sure about that. Coach Ron Rivera is basically saying that it's premature, and to say that he's going to be out for the entire year. They still don't know yet. I mean, they're assuming that that's going to end up being the case, but for right now, Rivera is going to be starting Alex Smith, and he went ahead and said, quote, "You have a very veteran quarterback who has helped nurture some good young quarterbacks. He's showed them how to prepare and study for a game. This is good for Dwayne. He'll get an opportunity to see how to truly prepare for a game as a starter, and hopefully Dwayne will take it. That is an opportunity to learn and grow. He may get an opportunity again shortly. He has to be ready and prepare as if he's one play away." This is basically we're talking about Smith. So at this point, it just seems that right now it'll be Smith's first start since November 18th, 2018, because he also suffered a broken fibula and tibia to his right leg. So it'll be interesting to see them go through, start in the position. But we'll see what happens with the Washington football team. We'll see what happens with Kyle Allen. And the thing is, there's rumors too saying that Dak Prescott's injury might be career ending. There's rumors about that as well, that could be the case. I mean, Jeremy, what are your thoughts right now as far as an injury such as this affecting Dak Prescott and possibly not even coming back?
Well, I mean, I said when we first addressed this that's a possibility. I believe I talked about it before. I saw an injury almost exactly like this for a USC player many years ago, and the player had his foot planted and a guy grabbed him and he got spun and the foot stayed. So literally literally you saw it on camera. His shin, his body, everything turned 180 degrees. And
just like Dak Prescott.
Yeah, just like Dak. His foot stayed right where it was. So every bone was broken. Every ligament was torn. I mean, it's the worst injury you could get to a joint. You can't do any more damage than has been done. So coming back from that is not a guarantee. So of course there's rumors out there right now that it could be career threatening. I mean, it could be. There are no guarantees he comes back from this. You can't have a more catastrophic injury to a joint.
Yeah, and Lonnie, to be honest with you, you're getting grossed out by it. But if you would have seen the footage, I actually didn't see the footage until last night of Dak Prescott's ankle. It was inward.
Oh,
and I saw when he landed. It's so cringeworthy to watch.
That makes me sick.
I can't even watch him. I can't even watch it. I have to look. I've broken my ankle too many times, and seeing those pictures, it actually causes me physical pain. I can't even look.
It's so bad. It's so bad. But Lonnie, your Steelers have also suffered a few injuries here and there as well.
Oh yeah. I was a little nervous over the weekend. If you guys watched the game yesterday, I watched that game and then I watched a little bit of Brady, the Bucks, and
God, that massacre!
Yeah.
That was a massacre.
I actually enjoyed watching New Orleans beat them. By the way,
I bet you did.
Yeah, I really did. But I was worried about Ben, his knee on Sunday. Because there was one play, the way that he landed, it was like, he's old now, and it's just like, I'm like, this is it. So, like I said, it's a violent sport, and I although I enjoy watching, as long as the players aren't hurt, and there's just a good chance you can get hurt, and I'm trying to think, Ryan. This guy's last name for the Steelers, and I don't even know his last name. Ryan's his first name, and I can't think of his last name, who actually had the spinal injury.
Oh, Ryan Shazier.
Who had the spinal injury. And it's just that story. It's just, he was like, it's so sad,
Yeah. No, he's definitely, Ryan Shazier was definitely an incredible middle linebacker for the Steelers.
Ryan Shazier, yeah.
And he, it's incredible like what therapy has done. He was able to walk. He actually walked on stage of draft a couple of years ago to actually present the draft for the Steelers. And it was incredible to see him. It was very inspiring to see him walk because doctors are like, dude, an injury like that, you're not going to be able to walk again pretty much. And he's starting to walk again, and so that's really inspiring to see that he's doing better. And I actually reported about this not too a few months ago. Actually, basically, I believe somebody had asked him if he were to go back, and he's like, "Yeah, I'd go back in a heartbeat to go ahead and play." And like Jeremy, basically what Jeremy said is that just like fighters are fighters forever, athletes are athletes forever. They don't care. They'll come back if they're given the opportunity because that's all they've ever known. So yeah, it's definitely a very tough sport. Definitely tough to see some of these young quarterbacks, young athletes get injured and possibly have their career end at such a young age when they have so much more to give. They have so many more years to give, and so it's really tough to see these types of injuries cost them, their livelihood, cost them their careers. So here's hoping that the rumors aren't true for Dak Prescott. He's a great quarterback. I'm not exactly a Cowboys fan. Don't get me wrong, I'm not a Cowboys fan, but I don't wish that kind of injury on anybody. It's a tough one. I may not like the team, but that doesn't mean that I have any ill will towards the individuals that are a part of that team. So here's.
And with all due respect, they almost beat us.
Right.
I'm just keeping it real over here.
You must be still happy with your Steelers right now, aren't you, Lonnie?
I am really happy.
I bet
happy.
you are.
A lot of it is luck, though. There's a lot of luck involved.
Well, it's also the schedule too. It's part of the luck is the schedule. They got the luck. They got the luck of the draw this year. So we'll see what happens when playoffs comes around. If they could continue that lucky streak, that's where the real test begins, right there. So
Kansas City will be the teller.
That's going to be a tough one. That's definitely going to be a tough one. But we'll have to keep an eye on that. And, we'll keep an eye on Kyle Allen. Hopefully he'll come back. Doubtful, though. That's a tough injury. So who knows if he'll actually be able to finish out the season. We'll see what happens.
Wait. Do you really think you're getting off without talking about the Pac-12 coming back? Do you really think you're getting away without it? Just because your boys put up a pathetic showing against Colorado and my boys put up a pathetic showing, yet still won against Arizona. So you thought you're going to get out of talking about this? I don't think so.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, let me see.
I don't know. No. I don't know what you're talking about, meaning I don't care. But for the sake of the show.
We do got to address it because we had two major cancellations in the Pac-12. This was supposed to be a very big weekend for the Pac-12, and unfortunately we had the Cal and I believe Cal and Utah. God, who was it? Now I'm blanking. Mm-hmm. Well, the Cal game, I know it was Cal, but we had one other game.
Was it Cal and Stanford?
No, Stanford played Oregon. They lost to Oregon. I'm really not sure who the other, but we had two cancellations. So as we're seeing across the country already, COVID is still affecting sports. It was just announced earlier today also that the Alabama LSU game coming up this weekend is also in jeopardy because LSU has multiple players in quarantine right now, and they do not know if they will have the roster limits met to be able to play the game. So this is happening all over college football right now. And it's just something that as much as, here's the thing, as much as we all love the sport, as much as we all want to see them play, as much as these kids want to play, because they're athletes, they're competitors. Dude, somebody's got to step in. We still don't know the long-term risks of this.
Right.
It's already being shown that even if you had mild symptoms, the long-term damage done to the respiratory and pulmonary, the pulmonary systems, everything is very possible long-term damage even in the young people who've gotten this. Mm-hmm. Okay, we have these kids that we have now put forward to protect the almighty dollar of the business, and their lives are at risk. Everybody's talking about it like we've gotten over this hump, and these kids are, every week we're hearing about a new team having an outbreak, and we got to remember, these are kids. They're not being paid for this. This is not a job. These are kids who have actually been threatened with losing their livelihoods if they don't play.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The NCAA did not step up and protect them and say their scholarships would be protected. The government did not step up and protect them and say their scholarships would be protected. These children, and that's what they are essentially, children, have been told, if you don't risk your life and play, we can't guarantee you have a future. We're taking away your scholarship. And that's what they've been told.
Right.
This is a problem nobody's talking about. Everybody, woo, college football's back. Somebody needs to be talking about this. They really do, because we're seeing it every single week. We're having a new outbreak with a new team.
Yeah, and they're not taking any precautions to protect these kids, and it's it's a responsibility that they need to step up and start doing, because it's not right. It's just not right. And hopefully, like we talked about this before. We talked about this before in past episodes that we're it's going to fall on deaf ears, because the NCAA, they don't care. They only care about money, and there's nobody that can step in, but somebody should. Somebody should definitely step in. Maybe the parents could somehow say, hey, my kid's not going to play for you. There's no way. I don't care if he doesn't get an education. I don't give a rat's ass. But you're not going to go ahead and risk my child's life, just to go ahead and make a buck. I mean, that's the only real way you could boycott something like this, is if parents band together, pull their kids out, and without any players, you don't have anything. You don't have money. You have nothing. That's the only way you can control that. Let
me point something out here, though. By the time they hit campus, every one of these kids is 18 years old and is on a scholarship.
True.
These parents cannot take away the money to pay for college because they're not paying for it.
True.
The parents have no power to do this. And let me go even deeper with that. Football in particular, along with a few other sports, but football in particular is dominated by people who came up and grew up predominantly poor or in the inner cities.
Very much so. Yeah. And
so these are parents.
Yeah,
that's Lonnie. I'm sure you were just about to hit this. This is their way out. This is their way to support their families, to take care of them. You're talking about the parents should step in and say, these parents are seeing this in the same eyes. Most of these parents, even as much as they love their children, know that this might be the only opportunity their family has right now to survive.
True.
It's a really effed up situation to be in.
It really is.
Well, hopefully there could be some solution in the future. But as it stands right now, all we can do is just hope and pray that they're okay and they're safe and they recover from this horrible virus that's affecting the world. So, we'll go ahead and hope for that. Coming up next in video game news, the Xbox Series X comes out tomorrow. We'll talk a little bit about that. But first, here is Eve 6 Promise, right here on the Xander Effect.
Sleeping through the evening, singing dreams inside my head. I'm heading out, I've got some ends who say they care and they just might. I run away with you if things don't go as planned. Planning big could be a gamble, I've already rolled the dice. I spit and stutter, stuff and clutter, worries in my worried corner. Maladjusted, just untrusted, rusted, sometimes brilliant, busted thoughts. Think I'll stay for a while. I'm intrigued and I'm red as a newborn, white as a corpse. Promise that to try not to fuck with your mind. Promise that to mind if you go your way and I go mine. I promise not to lie if I'm looking you straight in the eye. I promise not to try not to let you down. I am elated, I am all smiles and dated in
This is Jackie Lastra, the voice of Aset, you bet, from I, the Somnium Files, and you're listening to The Xander Effect.
This is your favorite guest, Du Brown.
Hey guys, this is Ian Gary.
Hey, this is Annalise Hoveda.
Hey yo, this is Nightmare from Dirty Machine.
Hi, this is Cambry Loveseat.
Hey, this is Steph Lee.
And you're listening.
And you're listening.
And you're listening.
And you're listening.
And you're listening to The Xander Effect.
We're gonna get it on tonight. I'm burning up like fuego. Let's do it nice and slow, yeah. gusta, you know where it's at. Que me gusta, que te gusta, I'm your chica, muy bonita. Que me gusta, que te gusta, you know where it's at. If you do it to me, then I'll do it to you. Baby, don't it feel good? Que me gusta. If you do it to me, then I'll do it to you. Baby, don't it feel good? If you do it to me, then I'll do it to you. Baby, don't it feel good? Que te gusta. If you do it to me, then I'll do it to you. Baby, don't it feel good? Que me gusta. Que te gusta. Que me gusta. Que te gusta.
That was Twins Que Me Gusta right here on the Xander Effect. In video game news, yay! Tomorrow, the Xbox Series X is finally released, and I believe the Sony PlayStation 5 is also released. There was pre-orders that happened about a month and a half ago, I think, and the pre-orders went really quickly. So I'm hoping that right after the pre-orders went pretty quickly, people were like, "Oh my God, we're not going to get our consoles and this, that, and the other." But Microsoft went ahead and released a statement saying that they still have a lot of Xbox Series X in stock, in their warehouses and stuff. So those are actually set to be released tomorrow, November 10th. So make sure you get online. Make sure you go ahead and check that out. Also, what's being released tomorrow is Assassin's Creed Valhalla. That's gonna be another game I've already pre-ordered. I'm ready to play that sucker. I mean, the map is set to be really well made, graphics galore. It's also going to be available on the Xbox Series X as well. So that's going to be interesting. And Jeremy, you said that you've been keeping an eye on some of the gameplay for Assassin's Creed Valhalla. How's that looking?
Oh man, it looks incredible. Now I have to say, the reason I've been keeping such a close eye on this, I've never been a huge fan of the Assassin's Creed series. It never really drew me in. I didn't dislike it. I had no problems with it, but it wasn't a style of game that I enjoyed. So I'll preface this by saying I didn't enjoy the more linear style of the old Assassin's Creed. In its last edition, as well as this one, it has gotten more of the RPG elements, more of the role-playing game elements in there, and I enjoy that more. When I heard they were doing Valhalla and doing the Viking era, that is an era, as a history buff, that is one of my favorites. It's one of the most fascinating eras of that time in Europe. Mm-hmm. And to be a Viking, to play as a Viking is
sounds like something I'd be interested in.
See, exactly. That's what drew me into the game. It's not that I'm some big fan of this game or the mechanics. Right. It's just that idea of you're going to be literally playing the conquests of England as a Viking, and they're staying very accurate to the history and the time period, and so that drew me in. Mm-hmm. So I started, really following it, and a few content creators on YouTube have been given access to it early. And one guy in particular who I follow, I'll give him a little shout out. His name is The Rad Brad. Guy's got a great page if you're a gamer and does some wonderful walkthroughs. Anyway, this is one of the most visually stunning games I've ever seen, and they're still only playing it on the old gen systems.
Wow.
Because next gen wasn't out yet. So I can't even imagine how beautiful this game will be from a graphics standpoint on the next gen systems. Man. It already looks closer to film than any video game I've ever seen. It's awesome. Almost like watching a movie.
That's awesome. Because I saw the trailer for it. The trailer looked freaking incredible when I saw the trailer for it. And one thing that I love about the Assassin's Creed video games, and it was shortly after Black Flag, was the integration of ships. Like creating your own ships and everything, and the battles between, one ship against another ship. And they kept on going with this, and they've improved on it a lot, actually. And Black Flag was really cool because you had to battle these 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 legendary ships that you had to destroy, and they were not easy to destroy either. They were really hard. But this is a really cool thing because that was their method of expanding their map. And shortly after that, Assassin's Creed Odyssey came out. Well, actually, before that was the other Assassin's Creed, the one with the Egyptians and everything. But then Odyssey came out. They've been implementing ships in each of these Assassin's Creeds, which I love. That I love the ocean. I love the sound of the ocean and how they have it in there. I mean, and I know that they're going to be including that in Valhalla as well.
Well, let me tell you, I haven't, again, because it's pre-release stuff and I'm just watching what these early content creators are doing. I've only seen maybe, the first 15% of the game or so.
Mm-hmm.
So far, unfortunately, because they're staying true to the historics of it, there is no ship-to-ship battle. In this game. Now, there could be further on in the story if perhaps the Vikings steal a ship or something, but the Vikings did not battle in ships. They used longboats for invasion, for raiding, and for quick strikes. They did not have big ships with cannons and things like this. It was not something they used historically. So that is not a part of this game, I believe.
Well, we'll definitely find that out.
Historically, just to go back in history, the Vikings, they did much on foot.
Much, yes. They did quite a lot of it on. Once they reached land, they really only used the boats to get to other places that were unreachable by land.
Right.
Otherwise they did a lot of land because they would raid as they went. Mm-hmm. So crossing the land to get to the next city, any villages they came across, anything, they raided supplies and, things like that. Mm-hmm. So it was very common for them to travel by foot, to travel by horseback. That was more common than the traditional, at the time, British method of raiding with the bigger ships and stuff.
Right.
Nice. Well, now, again,
from a gameplay perspective, let me jump in real quick on this. From what I've seen, the combat looks even better than Odyssey. It looks even smoother and less clunky, which I think is quite an achievement considering you're talking about the way they have captured the chaos of a Viking-style battle. You're not talking about one-on-one combat here. You're in most situations, you're talking about, 10-on-5 combat, 6-on-6. I mean, you're in a melee of strikes and weapons and arrows. It's a very realistic combat style for the time. And
not to mention their outfits back then were super cool.
Oh, absolutely. And the graphics on those are absolutely amazing, too. I think you would really love the artwork on this.
This sounds like something I'd like, you guys.
Yeah, Lonnie, see?
You're making me a gamer.
Come on.
We'll suck you into the dark side soon.
Join us, Lonnie. Everybody's doing it. Well, I guess we'll go ahead and find out definitely tomorrow, or actually at midnight tonight, actually. That's when you can actually play the game. If you pre-ordered Assassin's Creed Valhalla, it becomes available automatically as of midnight. Wherever you're at, actually. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Definitely going to be excited to play that game. Another thing I'm actually looking forward to is that Rockstar they announced over the weekend that Grand Theft Auto, Red Dead Redemption 2, and LA Noire will be available in the next gen console as backwards compatible. Now, as far as Red Dead Redemption 2 and GTA 5 go, I don't think that's going to be technically considered backwards compatible because they're still adding more things to the game. like I actually heard a rumor, and they haven't really officially announced this yet, that when GTA goes to the next gen, because it's the last GTA, they will add more content on there. And they said there was a rumor that they were going to add another story to the story mode of it, which that should be interesting. But of course, obviously, Rockstar is inching more and more to GTA 6 right now, especially with the next gen console. They still haven't announced when GTA 6 is going to come out. I'm sure that'll probably come out I'm estimating it's probably going to come out by the end of next year, beginning 2022, probably. Not sure yet. So, or actually, I should say they're going to probably announce GTA 6 by the end of next year, and it'll probably come out by the end of the following year. So, still not sure about that. But it's really cool that they're going to allow even LA Noire. I'm so happy they're going to allow LA Noire to be in the next gen console, because I love that game. I could actually repeat that game over and over again. And Lonnie, so you know, LA Noire is basically a story game about detectives in the 1930s Los Angeles, like Los Angeles. And the way they have this is so awesome. It's so accurate with the time, like the streets of Los Angeles. You know, I mean, it's really cool. You get
so it looks like it looked back in the day.
Exactly.
Yes. Well,
so much.
That's again one of the things. That's what drew me to that game. It was the history of it, and
I love old Hollywood, guys. Now you'll get me with old Hollywood.
You'll love this game.
This is a game you would love. As the detective, you are investigating the actual Black Dahlia murders.
That's cool.
So it is set in classic 1930s starlet Hollywood, and I mean to the streets they were accurate. I mean, it's amazing.
I mean,
that sounds interesting.
I'm telling you, Lonnie, you're gonna be one of us. It will happen. You will be one of us. No, but I mean, it's really cool because I mean,
after the show, text me the names, because you know I'm not going to remember them. And then what I'll do is I'll try to find out if like one of my cousins or dude I'm dating, if he has it, because he's into video games.
There you go. See, there you go. Go ahead.
Only thing is he's in LA and I'm in Pittsburgh right now, so it can't help me. But by the time I get back out there.
The couple that plays together stays together. Okay, so you got to look at it that way.
But hey, you could always we'll text you the name, and you could always hop on YouTube and watch one of those walkthroughs I was talking about.
Oh, okay.
They're usually an hour or less long. You can put it on in the background or whatever, but it'll give you an idea of what it's about, and kind of show you the storyline and how that draws you in. And it might be a way for you to get more familiar with it without actually having to play it.
Yep. A good story always gets me. I say it all the time. Like,
absolutely.
Left Prep Country. I love that show. I don't know if you guys watched it. Jeremy is actor. It was they just wrapped up their final season on HBO. And normally I don't go for stuff like that. I just don't. But oh my goodness, like the plot, just like it's so good. And so a good story always grabs me.
Well, you'll definitely love these games because these games have incredible stories, the way they wrote them. I mean, especially LA Noire. Oh my God, that entire game is just incredible. You have mystery, you have intrigue. Oh, you even have very very scary moments in the game where you don't know what's going to happen. It's definitely, especially when he's investigating the Black Dahlia murders, they do flashbacks, and some of those flashbacks are very disturbing. It's like, wow, that's crazy how those flashbacks are. But I mean, all in all, the game is incredible. I'm so happy Rockstar is making it compatible with the next gen system, and I'm definitely looking forward to playing those games. That's the news. In case you haven't heard it, thank you so much for joining us here on the Xander Effect. Wanted to thank my wonderful co-hosts, Mr. Jeremy Miller. Well, I wouldn't call you wonderful, but thanks for being here anyway.
You know you love me.
And of course, the lovely Miss Lonnie Rivera. Lonnie, thank you so much for being here too.
Hey, it was a great show today. I really enjoyed it. I learned a lot today.
Right. It's always that way here on the Xander Effect. So definitely glad to have you here. And again, big thanks to Raquel Buchanan for being on the show. Appreciate your time here. Hopefully we'll have you on here again. And remember, we're still in pandemic. I mean, looks like they might have found a vaccine that might be able to at least control any new spreads. So hopefully we'll keep an eye on that. But for the moment, for the time being, continue to wear your masks, continue to wear your gloves if you got them, goggles if you got them, if you go out. Make sure you practice hygiene, general hygiene, wash your hands, don't touch your face, protect yourself for not only yourself, but for your loved ones that might be susceptible to this virus. Again, shout out to Brad. Hopefully he'll get, he'll be well with this and he'll get through this as well. Our thoughts go out to him and his family that, well wishes for him and to anybody else that's affected by this as well. And remember that, again, we have to watch one another. We have to be careful to just continue to watch our each other's backs because we're all in this together. And remember, music always heals all. We'll see you next time.
Yo, yeah. I was like, open them up. Sure that she's talking and open them up. If it says something, we're going it out. And then there's something it out. And then it's got it's part of it, something we got it. Something that that's what we got it. And then we done it, and then we go out. And then say something we open them out.
The Xander Effect is powered by 50/50 Global Music Inc., Sony Music The Orchard, and Bertelsmann. In association with Art 19 Media.